Hi, I'm Rusty Gaston, the CEO of Sony Music Publishing Nashville. Join us to hear the songs and get a front row seat to a songwriter's story. Each of their journeys are unique and they deserve to be celebrated. So come along on our new series, A Songwriter's Story.
In the last episode, we introduced you to Trannie Anderson. Now we dive into some of her struggles and what she's had to learn and overcome within the industry. And you know what? Hard work does pay off.
My mom worked in a really male-dominant field, and she was doing things that women really weren't doing at that time in the 70s and 80s. The older I got and the more I heard about what she went through and how hard that was for her to chase a dream, but she's so glad she did it. That just instilled in me the belief, if you have a passion, you really, really need to dig in and follow that passion. No matter how long it takes and no matter how impossible it is, it can be done. At a really young age, I knew that I wanted to be a songwriter. Gary Rhodes and my other friend, Chris Womack, taught me that too. And I was lucky at a young age to know that that was a possibility for me to grow up and be a songwriter. In high school and college, I started entering songwriting contests. One is called Texas Songwriter U, and I ended up winning that contest, and I won a trip to Nashville and I got to record in a recording studio in Nashville and meet some music industry executives. Have some of the biggest and best songwriters in the town affirming my songs and telling me that I could do this. After going through that and getting my feet wet in Nashville a little bit, I graduated from Baylor University and I packed my truck up and made the trip from Texas to Nashville.
Bye guys. See ya. Bye.
Moving to Nashville is a really crazy thing because you do have to live in this big dream state and believe that you can do the impossible while at the same time experiencing reality and knowing that you're one of thousands and thousands and thousands of people who picked up their lives and moved here to try to do something that very few people get to do. I lived more in the reality of knowing that it wasn't going to happen overnight. Just off the bat, gave myself bite-sized goals so I didn't get overly discouraged. And I told myself if I wrote a song that day and I met one new person and got a new number in my phone, and I worked out and I ate halfway decent food, 2, 3, 4 years later, I would look up and I would be halfway up the mountain. Even on the days that I was rejected and I was told no, accomplishing those things every day, day after day, kept enough wind in my sails to keep going. I started a dog sitting company pretty soon after I moved to Nashville. Really on accident. That was never a plan for me, but I started getting a lot of dog sitting work from touring country artists. These are all the people I want to be writing songs for someday. And what an incredible organic way for me to build trust and build a relationship with them by taking care of their best friend and picking up their best friend's shit in the yard every day. I was dog sitting for Dan and Shay. I was dog sitting for 1,000 Horses. I was dog sitting for Brett Eldridge. I was dog sitting for Hunter Hayes, you name it. And I got some publishing meetings because of it. And I got a publishing deal. That was initially my biggest goal, was to be able to write songs full time and get paid to do it. And so who would have ever guessed that picking up dog shit would lead me to that? But it did. And I signed my first publishing deal in 2016, late 2016. I was only at that company for about a year and a couple months, and I got a phone call 2 days before I got married that the company was going out of business and I was no longer a writer there, that they fired everybody and I wasn't going to get a paycheck the next month. And I didn't know what I was going to do because my husband was still in grad school and we had no money, and we went on our honeymoon and we prayed a lot. And I didn't ask God for another publishing deal. I just asked God that we would survive. By the time that I landed a week later, after our honeymoon, the following week I had 3 publishing offers. That was just God working in real time, showing me that what I thought was the worst thing that had ever happened to me was the best thing that had ever happened to me. And I ended up landing a publishing deal at Sony Music Publishing, and that's where I've been for the last 7 years. And it's been an amazing home for me to grow and learn and meet some artists that have become my closest collaborators and best friends. And the worst thing that ever happened to me was probably my biggest break.
If you need a dog sitter, you may not be able to call Trannie Anderson anymore. But if you need a song, we know someone who can make a hit. Join us on the next and final part of our series as we dive into the story of Trannie Anderson and the Heart Wranglers.